Speaking of Christian and speaking of Luchasaurus, we should maybe segue into All Out and our guy on the road, our guy on the street, watched the show this week. D and I obviously did not.
No, I denounced AEW.
He denounced AEW. His heart will go on. He's sticking with his boo, CM Punk. But Mach, what were three things that stuck out to you from All Out this weekend in Chicago?
Number one, I want to say is that this show was all about the future crop. It was all about them putting their foot down and saying, we're going to make the future of the company right now, tonight. And, you know, whether you're either going to get on board or not, and you could tell that it was all about making Miro the next big guy on Saturday night based on his storyline. They followed up with a storyline that he's been pushing for a year, which is that he doesn't know if he has a wife. He doesn't know anything. Like the whole, like, I'm sure we'll get into it. Orange Cassidy came off absolutely the best, I thought. Obviously.
You mean the guy who fake kicks you?
Yeah, I mean, he tried to do that to Mox, and he nailed him with an elbow real bad. It was pretty snug. You could tell Moxley wasn't about that life. And it was definitely about pushing guys like Shane Taylor, getting him out there, getting his name out there. He was the guy who worked Samoa Joe. He's from Ring of Honor.
It doesn't matter who he is.
Well, then why'd you ask who's that?
Oh, that was my Rock impression. That was one of the great.
Oh, okay.
Rock.
Oh, okay. But yeah,
you look just like him.
About that.
I tried.
Yeah,
I identify as the Rock.
Yeah. The second thing I noticed was that the AEW World Championship is not the most important title on the brand.
What?
It is definitely the International Championship. It was said multiple times on the show. Tony Khan said it himself.
What?
Really?
That this is the most important title on the brand. And
so
I thought that was
MJF is in garbage land now.
I suppose he is. I mean, I think they're trying to push this story and this narrative so much with Adam Cole that they've forgotten that he's the world champion.
Hey, baby.
And the third thing that really stuck out to me, I'm really curious to hear Patrick's take on this, because this is the GOAT talking, was the way Ricky Starks worked. It wasn't just that he worked Bryan. It was the fact that Bryan just released, without even being asked this question, that because he wasn't 100% fully ready, Ricky Starks led their match.
Mm-hmm.
He said he just kind of followed his everything that he wanted, and he made it very clear, like, a lot of people don't like to work Bryan because he works a little tight, he works a little stiff, but he said every time he nailed Ricky just rose to the occasion, and he looked like a star. He absolutely looked that way, and if that's the way the company's going, then
can you say that with a straight face?
I did. I thought about it as I said it. I was like, oh man, that definitely came off as weird. But yeah, so those are the three things that stuck out to me. If I want to throw, like, you know, one in there, I just think that Tony Khan doesn't know how to book women.
Mm-hmm.
But to be clear with that, I'm pretty sure he's having the same flack that Eric Bischoff had in late WCW. No, I believe that it is TBS that doesn't see the women in AEW as marketable.
So he has too much masculinity
only want one
energy.
match on a card. No, I think the current crop that is in AEW, they don't see as marketable. I don't think it's about women's wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're not happy with the stars they have, which is why I think they're looking to bring in Mercedes Moné.
Does he fear for his life from Britt Baker?
Probably. I mean, she probably told him, like, hey, you're due for some fillings, and, you know.
Yeah.
Doctor's in.
I could see it happening at the dentist's office. Let's kind of dissect some of your points here, Mach. Obviously, the women's wrestling hasn't been all that great in AEW recently. Do you think any of the downturn in the women's division has anything to do with Jade Cargill no longer being the centerpiece of the women's division?
So I agree. I think that that's a really great point. I think that she was their Bianca Belair, and I don't mean to make this comparison because of who they identify as. But what I'm saying is she gave off that star vibe. We knew when Jade was out there that she was an absolute star. And I think little by little they were giving us information like, hey, she's working in the ring with Bryan Danielson. He's really helping her character. He's helping her in-ring work. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I also think that something that hurt AEW, which I don't think they intended, was the way Britt Baker came off on All Access. I think she was the face of the division, and she comes off as kind of like very toxic. And that's the best way to put it. I mean, most people went into AEW All Access thinking like, oh, here we go, Sammy Guevara. This kid's like a little douche. And they came out thinking like, oh, no, he's just trying to be something. Like, this kid's like, he's a nice kid. He's had issues with Andrade and Eddie Kingston, but he squashed them both. He's trying to make himself, and he definitely said some things that I think caught him some heat on there. But getting back to Britt Baker, there is this one specific episode where Tony Schiavone tells her, you have to let this thing go with Thunder Rosa. And she like a child dressed as an adult, just said, I just can't let it go.
Bring her to the E. Bring Thunder Rosa to the E.
I think Thunder Rosa is going to end up staying in AEW. I think also Thunder Rosa has some aspirations for maybe doing some MMA fights. We don't know. But I do think, without a shadow of a doubt, that the division was better and women's wrestling was featured better when Jade Cargill was the champion. To your point, Bianca Belair is obviously a lot further along in the process. I think she's a better worker at this point in time compared to Jade Cargill. But Jade Cargill, you really don't need to do a lot to sell her. Her appearance is enough. She's gorgeous. She can talk. She's impressive physically. She's in the vein of a Rhea Ripley. I think that would be a dream match. Jade and Rhea, I think they would tear the house down. And I think the thing that sticks out to me about Jade is Jade's there's the back again. He's doing the back thing, the Raquel back pose again. But I think the thing that sticks out to me the most about Jade is Jade's desire to want to learn. Jade sitting under the learning tree of a CM Punk, a Bryan Danielson, a William Regal, listening to what these guys are saying, finding different ways to improve and to become a better performer. And I think that is going to get her very, very far in the business.
Bring her to Bobby Lashley's group.
Well, she would be awesome in Bobby Lashley's group. She would be awesome in WWE. And I think that if she wants to take her career to the next level, that's the destination for her. I think the way she lost was just so underwhelming. And no offense to Chris Statlander, she's a good worker in her own right.
Who?
But it was super underwhelming. Chris Statlander. I just think that they definitely could use somebody like Mercedes Moné. It's rumored that she's going to be appearing at Grand Slam, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Who knows what'll happen between now and then? Yeah, money, and again, more importantly, you need a star really for that division. You need somebody to carry that. Obviously, you have a match already built there between her and Saraya. There's a lot of history there. I think that would be pretty good for them.
Her neck?
Absolutely, man. She's a pro, dude. Come on, that's not even a question.
Didn't she the one that fucked up her neck?
No, man. I don't think that's
Moné
what
was the one that fucked up her neck.
I don't know. Do you have a source or something? Like, I don't know.
I'm just saying, bro. I remember
Saraya.
Mercedes Moné messed up fucking Paige's neck.
There was a spot, but Saraya's gone on record multiple times that it was just it was just an honest mistake in the ring.
Yeah, okay, that's what they say.
Pat has kind of alluded to this. What I feel like has been like 2 months now, right, Pat? Where Saraya's never been fully healthy.
Yeah,
and I think that this one like small shot, it doesn't even look that bad when you watch the video.
Bro,
I think jostled her pretty bad.
Even Conan and Disco said that in All In, you could see that they were protecting Saraya through the whole match.
Yeah. They had to. And look, man, I mean, they wanted to give her the shot in the arm. She had a great moment in Wembley. She deserved that. She never really got her WrestleMania moment, her quote unquote WrestleMania moment. I think it was great for her.
It was her house.
It's her house. Obviously, she comes out to Queen. I mean, it was cool, man, and good for her. And you know what? She deserves it, man, because of what she's meant to women's wrestling. Absolutely.
What she did to women's wrestling, bro?
Well, I mean, she was kind of a catalyst into where we got women's wrestling to now. She played her part, her AJ Lee, her beating AJ Lee, and then
little.
Well, AJ
we can't talk about Saraya without talking about Emma, because that match in NXT for the inaugural NXT Women's Championship.
That's a classic, bro. Yo, but she was super over with that gimmick, man. Not for nothing. She was super over with that gimmick. Look at that look he's giving.
I think Macho's driving through the mountains.
That's the look you deserve. That's the look you deserve. You froze on a dirty look, and that was the look that D deserved.
Yeah.
All right.
No. What I was gonna say was the first match that was given house down. I recommend anybody go back and watch that match. It is
Yeah.
the inaugural championship
Emma was great
match.
in NXT. When she went when she went up to the main roster, she sucked balls.
Yeah, it didn't work out. I mean, look, sometimes these things happen in the business, man. But at the end of the
her
day,
she was in the back sucking balls.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about any said ball.
I'm healing it up today, guys.
You are healing it. Yeah, you're certainly healing it up.
Just call me Disco.
We're gonna call you DJF. All right,
DJF. Look at the
DJF.
face. Look at the face. He froze on.
Macho's face says it all right there. You know, you froze on another dirty look that he deserved. But but moving along, you know, the Ricky Starks Bryan Danielson match, that was a match that kind of interested me. I still wasn't very particularly sold on the card. Anytime you get to see Bryan Danielson wrestle is a great time. I'm a huge fan, obviously, as you know, as well as you are. Been following his career since the beginning. And Ricky Starks, man, he seems like a guy that the veterans really like. And I think he has the right kind of attitude. The fact that he worked with Punk, who,
doesn't he look like fucking well, what's his name, bro? Fucking the Hart kid.
John Leguizamo.
He does look like John Leguizamo. Wow.
No, but he looks like fucking what's his name, bro? The Bad Heart, the Black Heart.
Owen?
Teddy Hart?
Teddy Hart. He looks like Teddy Hart, man, to me. Just think about it. Just take another look at him.
I think you got to get your prescription checked out, D.
Yeah, that's great.
It's Teddy Hart. Where did you come up with that one?
I don't know. He looks like Teddy Hart, man, to me.
I could see John Leguizamo, and for some reason, he kind of reminds me of Harry Connick Jr. in Independence Day. I don't know why. He's got some of those characteristics, but the kid's a good promo. He's a solid worker. And again, he's a guy that you could see that the veterans take to. You know, you look at the people that he's worked with, Chris Jericho, CM Punk. He worked extensively with CM Punk. And, you know, as we found out, you know, later on, CM Punk didn't really always get along with the younger wrestlers, let's say. But this is a guy that Punk took under his wing. Punk helped him. Danielson's now helping him. I mean, dude, what other seal of approval does he need for people to realize that this guy is a star in the making?
Do you think that audible was good?
I think that audible was excellent, man. I mean, plus, you know, you got to think about the fact that you got rid of the Chicago guy in Chicago. What other guy can you bring in that's got that kind of credibility, that zest? You already got Samoa Joe on the card, Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson's going to pop a crowd anywhere he goes.
But it was more than that, because Bryan actually told us, which I didn't know. Pat, you might know this because you're more of a historian in terms of who works where. But Bryan actually told us that was the first time he'd ever wrestled at the United Center. So not only did they get Bryan Danielson, but it was the first time that crowd had actually seen him in a wrestling match. So it was the perfect, like, ad-lib.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they typically would have their shows at the Rosemont Horizon, which is where they had Money in the Bank, where they had WrestleMania. You know, that's typically where WWE has a lot of their shows. I forgot. I think it's called the Allstate Arena now, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's a very interesting little side note. And
the Punk's house.
They should. I mean, we'll see what happens come November. But you know, Ricky Starks certainly is a guy who's making a lot of headlines. To me, he's one of the undercover MVPs along with Swerve Strickland. I think those two guys are fantastic. I think that those are two guys that should be in line for pushes. And I really hope that Tony Khan recognizes this and makes the most of these two guys that he has.
Where is Keith Lee?
That's a
great arguing
question.
With the back.
Yeah. I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked that Keith Lee's like hasn't come back. I'm shocked that they
does he have a heart condition too?
He does have a heart condition, but I mean, as far as I know, they didn't really have anything for him creatively, and they went through a lot of changes. He went
Carlito'd him, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Keith Lee is a guy that, like, you look at and he should have been a lot bigger than what he is. I mean, especially you think about, like, when he had his main roster moment.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
You know, he had a moment with Brock Lesnar in the Rumble. He was in a Survivor Series match with Roman Reigns. Like, they were really endorsing this guy big time. Something happened along the way. Unfortunately, he had his health issues.
They said Vince don't like brothers that have a high vocabulary level.
I don't know about all that. But I think at the end of the day, he was given opportunities. Unfortunately, they didn't really work out in his favor. And he's a guy that I look at and I think to myself, man, they should have just done a lot more with this guy. But what three negatives stuck out to you as far as All Out was concerned? And before we get to that, I just want to ask you, which show did you think was better, All In Wembley Stadium or All Out in Chicago?
All Out. All Out felt like a pro wrestling show. It felt like when I was watching it, I was like, yeah, I can see Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn. I could see them like actually producing this show. This was produced well. It felt like everybody rose to the occasion they needed to. And I don't know if Brian had something to do with that. Maybe he did. We don't know. But I felt like All In, I don't want to steal his phrase, so please don't sue me, but it felt indie-rific. It felt like one of those shows, like the best way I could describe All In is it was like sitting in your mom's living room watching the King of the Indies. That's what that felt like to me.
Yeah. Definitely. What were three negative aspects of this show to you?
So my three negatives about the show, obviously, were the way the card is structured. I really feel like he makes a mistake in how he structures the card, whoever he is. You know, obviously Tony Khan says he's in charge of entirely the whole thing when it comes to storytelling and creative. So then I guess we're going to lay the blame on him. The structures of the matches make zero sense to me. The only thing that he seems to ever get right is the opening match. And in terms of this week, the opening match was actually one of the weaker matches. One of the negatives that stuck out to me is the Young Bucks and their inability to be professional. I get that they're trying to go for heat, and they're in Chicago, and they're trying to play up the booze, and they're slowly turning heel. But I feel like right now what the fans needed is for you to be the EVPs. Go out there and just put on a pro wrestling match, and they chose their feelings over the match, and the match suffered. It was a spot fest clusterfuck. It's the best way I could put it on there.
How many super kicks were in that match?
Oh, I didn't even count. But I can tell you that there was two spots where they did the finish for the FTR, where it was one Young Buck, one FTR member, and then they did the double super kick with one Young Buck and one FTR member. That was the second negative that I saw. And honestly, I don't want to keep harping on this, but it really feels like companies kind of they booked themselves into a corner with MJF. They don't know how to book him now. That's what it feels like to me. I think they're using this tag title thing, and it's really hurting the rest of the roster because some of those Ring of Honor talents that are just jobbing to them, like Aussie Open, that's a solid team that Will Ospreay has worked his ass off to make a thing in Japan, and they come over here and they're just fed to MJF and Adam Cole, and it doesn't feel like it's the right decision.
It doesn't feel indie-rific?
No, it feels like poor booking. Like you can have people can lose and it not hurt you. Ricky Starks lost. Orange Cassidy lost. It didn't hurt either one of them. They rose. They're going to be bigger stars after these losses. Wardlow beat CM Punk. It didn't hurt CM Punk, and it made Wardlow the biggest star in that company until they decided they didn't want to Bill Goldberg. And those are the three things that really stuck out to me as negatives. I don't know. I mean, so what do you think? What do you think about the things I said there?
Well, there's certainly a lot to digest. I think you bring up a lot of good points. I think the fact that MJF is your world champion and you're not featuring him more prominently, now you have the international title main event that show when you should have had the AEW title main event that show. And you're basically telling your audience, literally, and you're demonstrating to them that the international title is more important because it's on a guy like Jon Moxley now. I think that they're going to struggle now that they don't have CM Punk. They're going to scramble around and figure out a lot of things. Jon Moxley is a good hand, but do I think that Jon Moxley is going to be the guy to bring in those ratings? I don't think so. I really don't.
If he works the style he works this week, that he worked this weekend, I believe he can. But if he goes back to the Matt Cardona style, I don't believe that it's going to work. No.
Do we have breaking news here?
Breaking news here, Pat. On 9/2, Collision's ratings was at 0.11, which is 345,000 smacking people watching the show.
I'm not surprised though, dude, because a big selling point for Collision was for CM Punk, and now you're not going to have this guy in that show anymore. They're going to have to rebrand it.
I agree with you. I just we are going to point out on here that Payback was on at the same exact time, right?
That is a valid point, and there were college football games too, which are equally as important to their respective demographics. So,
Notre Dame 2-0.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, AEW, they're going to be on a rough road. They're going to have to improvise a lot. Jon Moxley has the talent. Yes, Jon Moxley could be that guy. But do I think that he's intriguing enough as a character? Are we suddenly going to see something from Jon Moxley that we haven't seen before that's going to lure in an extra 300,000 or 400,000 people? No. I think the people that like AEW because that's their hardcore base. That's their niche. It's been around long enough where people now know what to expect from the program. Outside of their big show, which is probably going to be Grand Slam, the only surprise I could see coming up soon is Mercedes Moné showing up. What that turns out to be, we don't know. It'll be a nice boost in the arm for them in terms of attention. But again, I just think that their problems backstage, the stuff that goes on backstage is more interesting than the shit that's happening in the ring. And that's a big, big problem. And I think that Tony Khan needs to improve the structure of the company, needs to have certain people in positions that belong in those positions, whether it's booking, whatever the discipline committee is. And he needs to act more professional. He needs to stop trying to be their friend. He needs to stop trying to be this guy that's just booking a show, but he wants to party with the wrestlers afterwards. You need to be a fucking professional, okay? You need to go out there and you need to be their boss. Whether CM Punk's firing is the beginning of that, we don't know. But it certainly we'll see over time. What was your match of the night?
Well, I mean, up until I had 3 matches that stuck out to me as like the best, and if I would put them in order, I would say Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs surprised the shit out of me. It was not what I'd expect from those two. I know Miro's a good worker. I've seen it, but I had no idea this was Powerhouse Hobbs. No clue, Pat, at all. The second match I would say is Brian Ricky, and I'm not trying to be, a homer here because of how we feel about Brian. But I really felt like the storytelling, I felt like the shots in it, and I knew what we were going to get from the two. And I know that Brian knew he had to fix something. He had to have people talking about what's on the show instead of what's behind the scenes.
Right.
And as much as I know a lot of people disagree with, Orange Cassidy, Jon Moxley was the best match of the night. Storytelling all around. It really felt like, it really felt like a genuine. It felt like it was produced by WWE. That's the best way to put it.
Wow, that's
did not
certainly
feel
a
like
shocker.
an AEW match. No,
really?
Pat, I recommend go watch this match. I think you'll come out with the same feelings. That feels like an outlier. I've never seen a match produced by anybody not named Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, Hangman Adam Page. I've not seen a match by anybody not those 3 people in that company that was that good. I was like, wow, this might be the best version of AEW we're ever going to get.
Well, in fairness, I will say this much. For a very long time, I have been saying on this show that Orange Cassidy is one of the best wrestlers in the world. And that's a fact, folks. The gimmick might not be for you, right? You might not personally like it. It might be difficult for some people to get. But every time that guy steps in the ring, he delivers no matter what they're asking him to do. He has great technical ability, okay? The guy can work, dude. He comes from a good background, trained at Shikara. He's not a slouch, dude. This guy is not a slouch in the ring. He might look like a freaking DJ, okay? He might look like a guy that hangs out at your local bar. He might look like somebody you smoke weed with behind a venue.
Yeah.
But the guy steps in that ring and brings it every single time, and I'm honestly not surprised. I am honestly not surprised. What do you really look? What do you forecast for AEW in the coming months, and what do you think they need to do better in order to get them back to being a more respectable wrestling company?
The number one company.
Well, they're never going to be the number one company. Let's just get that out of the way. And even Bryan Danielson mentioned that, which Tony Khan said that they're a challenger brand. So whatever you want to call it, that's fine. it's a secondary promotion. That's what it is. It's an alternative for fans, and that's fine. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? It's good that it exists. It's employing wrestlers, and it's something else for somebody else to take in. But what do you forecast for AEW in the coming months, and what do you think they need to do better to maybe perhaps get some of that respect and credibility back, and kind of eliminate some of the black stains that they've gotten over the subsequent months?
First things first, I think they need to produce better product on screen and get people talking about what we're watching on our television on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 and Saturday nights from 8 to 10. I think that is the priority. And right now, and I say this so often, I say it on my show and I say it on TikTok, I can't have faith in Tony Khan because we care as a fan base, a wrestling fan base. We care more about the shit that happens behind the scenes in AEW. Like, look, CM Punk is gone for 9 months. Nobody's talking about the product on screen. We're talking about where's CM Punk. That's a problem. When people care more about the guy, you know, that's not there. And I think, honestly, I think what they need to do is they need to fix their situation with the world title. If you want to run this whole, like, grudge match between MJF and Adam Cole, then you need to run it, but it's not doing the title any favors. I would definitely push guys like Orange Cassidy and Ricky Starks to the top, like have them. I would immediately jump those two in some kind of program. Make them fight each other for a chance at the world title. Maybe even have a triple threat match. That way, one of these guys to take a loss if you really need to protect MJF. However you feel. Obviously, MJF is the biggest name in the company, so you want to protect him. But I definitely feel like that's an issue. And unfortunately, until the new contract is signed with TBS and Turner Broadcast, I don't think a lot of changes are going to come because I think right now they're kind of handcuffed and they have to run business the way they have it now. And I guess the last point I would make is I would definitely have a sit down with the EVPs and let them know, like, you guys need to be leaders now. The way you're going out there, you look like children making victory laps around a ring.
Mi gente, do you think they're going to lose? Do you think they're going to lose their TV contract now?
Well, that's a big one. I mean, I think there's a lot of talk about their app, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did lose their TV contract. But most definitely, I believe they're going to lose Friday nights. I 100% believe Friday nights will be canceled.
What's on Friday nights? I only know Wednesdays and Saturdays. What's Friday?
Rampage.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. I you know what? I think that they are going to get a TV deal. I think they're still going to stay there. And I think even though they're not doing great compared to WWE, I think they're bringing in a demographic, a steady rating, albeit a low rating, and they're satisfying whatever the requirements are that are given to them from Time Warner Discovery. So, you know, I think as long as they continue to do that, but focus more on the Orange Cassidys, focus more on the Ricky Starks, MJF, Adam Cole, and Swerve Strickland. Have more of that. You know what I'm saying? And less of the bullshit. I think they could go a long way to repairing their reputation with the fans. Mach, can you stick around with us for the main event topic, or do you have to run?
No, I can give you about 20 more minutes.
Great,
wow.
Mi gente.
Wow, mi gente. Well, obviously